Hi folks, Steve Composer here. Just thought I'd have a quick chat. I might call this a campfire chat without a campfire. I'm inside today. Yesterday we had a big rainstorm come here. Wind, rain. The ground's very wet today. There's no rain today, but it's overcast and the ground's wet, so I'm just going to stay inside and have a quick chat. And I don't like to name names, but I'm going to name a couple of names, not in a negative way. Just I want to relate a historical story to you. There's been a bit of controversy lately about Joe Tetai and before him Dave Canterbury embellishing their military records. And I just want to go back. I like doing historical research, and this is from the US frontier. And back in the day, this is 1824, a General William Ashley, I'm just referring to some notes here, so just excuse me. In 1824, he set up an expedition to explore the Rocky Mountains, the upper Missouri River and so forth. He advertised for 100 men, and they were called Ashley's 100. So this is General William Ashley in 1824. And the people who ended up joining that expedition, many of them ended up being a whole heap of really famous mountain men, explorers, trappers, and famous characters in their own rights. One of them, for example, was Hugh Glass. He lived approximately 1780 to 1833. If you don't know who Hugh Glass is, it's interesting because at the moment there's a movie called The Revenant. It's starring Leonardo DiCaprio, who plays this Hugh Glass character. And so that's at the moment. So Hugh Glass I'm not talking about Hugh Glass, but that just happens to be a movie at the moment. That movie, by the way, Les Stroud, Survivor Man, he said that he walked out on that movie. He was so disgusted with the movie, he walked out halfway through it. So I'm not here to talk about that movie. That movie's based on a book which was loosely based on his life story. So you know how movies change things. So Les Stroud was disgusted by the movie. It's a very famous survival story. The guy was attacked by a grizzly bear, left for dead, and he crawled 100 miles back to a fort, back to civilization. He set his own leg and so forth. He had massive wounds. He let maggots eat his wounds on his back. He had local Indians actually give him clothes and so forth. So that's a story in itself. But what I want to talk about is a character called James Pearson Beckworth, 1798 to 1866. He was part of Ashley's 100 expedition, and he was actually a black man. I never realised there were black people back then, making the way in the world, because of racism and so forth, but apparently he was a black fellow, a famous US mountain man. The reason, the whole crux of what I'm talking about here is that he embellished his military record. Later in his life, he recounted his story, which was made into a book, and that's why he's become famous, because of the book. And you know what it's like back in the day when they would embellish. You don't know how much they embellish their life story. You can imagine he's telling stories and things are embellished, but even if you take that into account, he must have had a remarkable life. He was kidnapped by Indians. He lived with Indians for years. He became a chief. He participated in raids on neighbouring Indian clans, like wars and so forth, war parties. But he recounted his life story. And he said that in 1837 he volunteered for the US Army to fight in the Second Seminole War in Florida. That's one thing about US history I don't like. They really conquered these poor Indian tribes and so forth, but look, that's my personal views. In his book he claimed to be a soldier and courier. Historical records state he was a civilian wagon master in the baggage division. The baggage division, like the transport carts taking all the supplies for the army. So just an interesting side issue there of someone apparently embellishing their military record. And of course, today we've got controversy with Joseph Tetai and dual survival, before him Dave Canterbury. I don't want to say too much about that. Apparently embellishing your resume is quite common. People just embellish a bit, but I think Joe Tetai is in more trouble than Dave Canterbury. But again, there's always two sides to a story. I'm not taking sides. I'm not having to go with Joe Tetai, don't get me wrong. I think he's okay. I want to stay out of that whole debate. I don't really know the true or what's going on there. I'm not having to go at anyone. I just named a couple of names just in relation to that interesting story about James Pearson Beckworth. And the other famous people in Ashley's 100, there were obviously Hugh Glass, there was David Jackson, you know, Jackson Hole, that famous lake in Wyoming, I think it is, in America. Thomas Fitzpatrick, Jebediah Strong Smith, or is that Jedediah? Is that two D's or with a B? I'm not too sure whether it should be Jebediah or it's got two D's, Jedediah Strong Smith. So yeah, just a couple of points on, I can talk all day here, but just a quick campfire chat without a campfire on embellishing your military record going back to the frontier days. I've got so much more to talk about, but that'll do for now. Thanks for watching, keep up the great work, and I'll see you next time.